Right. Genesis 31, I think. Yeah, 31. All right. So just kind of the journey we've been on. Who is the God of blessing and fruitfulness? Right? It's Yahweh, and yet people over and over trying to keep bringing their own sense of fruitfulness, their own doing things in their own way. Right? This was the story from the garden. Is people seeing God's goodness and everything God has, and then looking at that and said, "Huh, maybe I can do better." Right? Maybe if I take a crack at this, I'll improve on what God has done. And people continue to look at those uh, the goodness of and the blessings and the fruitfulness of Yahweh and doing things in their own way. So last week we talked about the Laban, right? So Laban, right? He was doing things with divination, the looking at signs and omens. And on the other hand, we have Jacob, and he just resorts. He's a quick thinker, right? He just things pop into his head. He's just got these ideas that end up being really smart and clever. And so he's bringing tricks on by his own fruitfulness, right? All while ignoring the true God of the blessing, right? Was Yahweh mentioned at any point in that last scene of all the deceptions and the trickery? Not once was anyone like, "Oh, hey, maybe we should talk to God about this." Hmm. Can't imagine how that goes bad. So in this next passage, we're going to turn a little bit of a corner, and I kind of love these when the narrative shifts. We get to kind of feels like we've been kind of on this deception and really hammering that. That's not over. So just don't think we're completely out of those woods yet. But the narrative's going to start to push forward, right? And remember Jacob's in exile because of the mess him and his mom, right? We won't give her a pass, right? They both kind of brought about this exile. In this exile, he finds just mess after mess after mess. Some of it caused by him, some of it caused to him, but because of him, right? Uh, just where Jacob's at, could he have left exile already? He could have. He was released from his obligations long ago, and yet he continues to stay in the mess. How come? Money. It was comfortable. There's money. Oh, look at all the good stuff I can have. And so he continues to find himself separated from God because it is comfortable, because it is lucrative. That has a lot to say to us in our world that, you know what, maybe we'll just live in sin a little bit because of look at all the good stuff it's doing. How's that going to turn out though? Yeah, it's gonna implode every time. We think we can live in that world for a little while, and you probably can, but eventually that will blow up on us. And I think we can all look back on times for us and see when that happened. So let's just keep marching forward. We're gonna take off a pretty good chunk today. So we'll get into it. Someone read 31, 1 through 9.
Jacob heard that Laban's friends were saying, Jacob, our father Laban gave all his money from what belonged to our father. And Jacob noticed that Laban's attitude towards him was not what it had been. And the Lord said to Jacob, go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. So Jacob sent word to Rachel and Leah to come out to the field where his flocks were. He said to them, I see that your father's attitude towards me is not what it was before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I worked for your father with all my strength, yet your father has cheated me by changing my wages 10 times. However, God has not allowed him to harm me. If he said, the speckled ones will be your wages, then all the flocks gave birth to speckled young. And if he said, the streaked ones will be your wages, then all the flocks bore streaked young. So God has taken away your father's livestock and given them to me.
It makes me laugh when I read this. All right, well, let's just start from the beginning, right? Jacob's sons commenting. How are they feeling right now? Cheated, right? Feeling like someone else is getting their blessings. Did they have any role in any of this? Anyone remember? Yeah. The sons, Laban's sons. They were doing something, weren't they? Didn't they go hide all the spotted and speckled sheep, right? So to try to cheat Jacob? That was them. How are they feeling now? They tried their best to make sure that he didn't get any blessing, and yet the blessing still came. And so even with all that, they still feel cheated. Well, actually, that's not what they say. They say, Jacob is taking everything from our father. Anyone think they're really concerned for their father? No. What are they concerned with? Inheritance. Anything that my father doesn't have, that means I don't get. Right? And so you can see the scheming and the thinking that's going here. And old Uncle Laban's face, that's how it says, as I looked at it in the Hebrew, it was not as it had been formerly. Laban's face was not as it had been formerly. So Laban's sons feel a little somehow. How's Laban feeling? Yeah. And he's done everything perfect, right? He's a righteous guy. I can't believe this is happening to me. Like, so these dynamics are shifting. And something has changed, right? They were going tit for tat, right? You manipulate me, I manipulate you. So what's changed? He started losing. That's basically it in a nutshell. All his scheming and his manipulations, he keeps coming out on the bad end of this, and he's not having fun anymore, right? It was all fun and games when I was wheeling and dealing, and now, yeah, not loving it. What do you think might happen if Jacob were to stay any longer? Might get unhealthy. Might get unhealthy. Might sleep with the fishes, Right? You got people like you're messing with their life that even though they can't see it, they have this perception that you're messing with their livelihood. There's no 10 Commandments yet. There's no how who's to say how they would deal with this? Yeah. Does it seem like they take any responsibility though for the role they played in any of this, Laban or his sons? No, none. It's all Jacob's fault. Victim, and we're going to talk a lot about victim mentality here today. Because we're going to see that just it's all over this, right? And they don't take any responsibility. And what we find, remember, Jacob was the smooth man. He's the manipulator. And this kind of personality rarely will take any type of responsibility, right? Or see themselves as causing any of this to happen. Oh, it's just everything keeps happening to me. And it's always someone else's fault. And it's real easy to actually get into that kind of thinking. that it's always someone else's fault. We never take that deep look inside of ourselves to say, oh, well, maybe I had something to do with that. And so we see this victim mentality really peeking through, which is interesting. Just think about all the blessings that they're squabbling over, Laban and his sons. Would any of this happen to them had it not been for Jacob coming? No. Like, they got blessed because he was there. So it's stuff that they wouldn't have had anyway. But now that it's here, oh, look at all the stuff we could get. Look at what our inheritance could have been. It will take an extraordinary encounter to get Jacob to see his own downfalls, because he will continue to see everything that he does is righteous and everything everyone else does is an attack on him, until God has the encounter. We don't get to that till next chapter, but I'm going to keep talking about it, because that's the hinge pin for all of this. So Laban's face has changed. After Jacob wrestles with God, it says he calls the place, I saw God's face. So people's face becomes a very real part of this narrative and this story. Jacob's starting to see all the faces of the people he has been trying to swindle or manipulate. Right? He's looking at Laban's face and said his face changed. He looks at God. God's face changed. Has he manipulated God in any of this? Over and over, right? He takes the blessings and he twists them and he moves them into his own ways. Here's when I was thinking about this week. It's a lot easier to deceive someone if you don't have to look them in the face. It's a lot easier to manipulate someone when you don't have to look them in the eye. It's a lot easier to talk about someone when they're not in the room. To swindle or do things when they're not. Like, it's hard to hate up close. Now Jacob's having to look at all these faces of the people that he's harmed and hurt, and he's like, ooh, I better. Something better happen here. These next passages are all about he's going to have to face all the people he's wronged and look them in the face, right? So Laban, he's going to leave, he's going to run. Laban's going to come after him. He's going to have to look him in the face. Esau, he's coming. He's going to have to look Esau in the face. And then in 32, he's going to have to look God in the face. These are some hard things that he has in front of him because of the choices that he has made. And you can only create chaos for so long without all these things kind of crashing back in on you. And he's really done it good. So back to verse 3. Jacob can see that this storm is brewing. Laban's face has changed. But was it his idea that, hey, I better get out of here? Why does he decide to leave? God had to tell him, hey, dummy, like, dude, you can see everyone's attitude towards you has shifted, and yet you're still going to stay put. God's like, dude, come on. Then the Lord said to Jacob, go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. And so God continues to show up. I think God's mercy is just all over these passages. Like, any one of us probably would have bailed by now if we were walking with a friend like this. But God just continues to walk forth with Jacob. And so Jacob, he sends word to Rachel and Leah to come out to the fields where his flocks were, and then he starts his little commentary here. And so just kind of hear the way he frames all this. He said to them, I see that your father's attitude towards me is not what it was before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I've worked for your father with all my strength, yet your father has cheated me by changing my wages 10 times. However, God has not allowed him to harm me. If he said the speckled ones will be your wages, then all the flocks gave birth to the speckled young. Just, it was miraculous. It was divine. I can't believe that happened.
Did he have a drink?
Huh?
Did he have a drink?
No, he was putting the sticks in the ground, and he was making all this happen, right? Yeah. I can't believe it. The God of my father. And then the dream comes next, Randy. Even the dream's funny, though. But yeah, just God did this for me. I think when manipulators and deceivers start seeing the treasure of their deceptions as God will, you better look out. Nice scheming. Oh, look at the good stuff. Like, oh, that must have been God. This is my favorite saying. Oh, God works in mysterious ways. Sometimes he does. Sometimes we're trying to make God do something that he never did. Who's he trying to persuade here? His wives, right? Yep, trying to persuade his wives. And this even gets better. So
His wives, they're the dog.
yes.
Man,
Yes.
downplaying.
Correct.
Minimizing.
Yeah, okay. That's good. How much trust are we putting in Jacob right now? Anyone got a lot of trust for this guy? I don't. Let's keep going. Yeah, he's the smooth man, right? He's the smooth man. That's what he kept saying. I'm smooth. Someone read 10 to 16.
It came about at the time when the flock were mating that I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, where behold, the male goats which were mating, striped and speckled and off. Then the angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob, and I said, here I am. He said, lift up now your eyes and see that all the male goats which were mating were striped, speckled, and mottled, for I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. How far were we going?
16.
I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar, where you made a vow to me. Now arise, leave this land, and return to the land of your birth. Rachel and Leah said to him, do we still have any portion of inheritance in our father's house? Are we not reckoned by him as foreigners? And he has sold us, and he has also entirely consumed our purchase price. Surely all the wealth which God has taken away from our father belongs to us and our children. Now then, do whatever God has said to you.
There was this one time when I had a dream about all these streaked and spotted and speckled. Just what's Rachel and Leah's response? What do they care about? There now, okay. So seems to be kind of a driving force here in this whole narrative is what can we get out of this? What do we get out of this? Who does all the wealth belong to at this point? Jacob. Was that how they responded? What did they say?
About the inheritance from your father, being disowned by him, being
Yeah.
by him.
Yeah. It says, surely all the wealth that God took away from our father belongs to us and our children. Did they say Jacob? to our kids, right? And by our kids, then that must be ours. Right? So everyone's trying to get their piece of the pie. Their piece of the pie is stuff, not God's will. All right, let's go back to the dream. So all the commentaries I looked at, this dream is translated in two ways. And depending on the commentary or the study Bible you're looking at, you could see either one of these interpretations. Interpretation one, he really did have this dream, and God was the one who actually orchestrated all of this. Interpretation two, this is just another manipulation. Anyone want to guess where I stand?
Number two.
After I've studied and what we've looked through, it seems to fit his character more than. Well, we know that God didn't, like, it was Jacob doing this stuff, not God.
If God tell him to do the
No, he didn't. He sure didn't. That was his thinking and scheming. Did God need poles and streaked and spotted things to bring abundance? Absolutely not. God already promised he would bless him. Jacob didn't have to do anything, and the blessings would have came because God promised him they would. And yet, that's not what we see. Remember Rachel's response last week to her servant being oppressed and forced into an unsolicited sexual relationship? God vindicated him. Yeah, God wanted you to do that. Like, so outside of God's character, and then it happens, and I had a baby though, so God vindicated. Can we see how this is playing out? And it's always self-center focused. Everything good that happens to me, even that I've done, must be God, even if I've done some awful things to get here. That's Jacob's dream. I got rich off of all this, right? So it must have been God's will. We don't ever hear about dreams from God telling people to do all sorts of crazy things, do we? That never happens. You don't hear about cults with I had a vision. Or I heard, and then go kill a bunch of people. Like, what? Or go drink poison, or go.
God never works in deception.
That's right. God will never work in sin. Just know that. If you think it takes something to break character to bring about God's will, you're off. God doesn't need it. He doesn't need our scheming. He doesn't need manipulation. He's not a ends justify the means kind of God. Never has been, never will be. Because the ends never justify the means. If we're outside of God's will. All right, so everyone here is painting themselves as righteous. You just hear it in their voices. God has vindicated me. Oh, God has blessed me. Oh, look at all God, right? Everyone here is righteous in their own eyes. Is anyone doing right by people or right by God in these stories? No. They're hurting each other. They're spitting in God's face, basically. All right, so just something else structurally. I'm going to nerd out just for a minute here. We talked a little bit about this Wednesday night with Ezekiel. There's a couple different voices in this passage about how Jacob received all this wealth. So for one, we have Jacob talking and Rachel and Leah, but we also have this narrator. And the narrator speaks in verse 3 about what God says. Then the Lord said to Jacob. Go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. That's what the narrative tells us that God said. But then in verse 5:10, Jacob takes over the dialogue. You'll see the quotation marks. These are direct quotes from Jacob. This is not the narrator telling us about this dream. This is Jacob's own words here. And the narrator just went, the last couple of weeks, just painfully slow, step by step, telling us exactly how Jacob got all this wealth. In just explicit details of how all this happens. And then Jacob, oh, that was all God. I had a dream. And God was never consulted. He was never prompted to act in any way. So I think as I think about that, as we reflect on this story and so many other stories in the Bible, we start to see that the Bible is very interested in trying to give us wisdom about how to discern when people are truly representing God's purpose, when people are truly representing God's will, and to have that spirit of discernment, and even so in our own lives. This is a story about a man who can't tell the difference between his own self-preserving schemes and God's blessings. Can we see that? Like that line in his mind is so blurred about what God is trying to do and what I'm trying to do, or between my own will and God's will. And it's just so easy to bring God over into my will.
He uses God to justify his action.
That's it. That's it.
And God's never talked about from Jacob as the primary care. He's never spoken as primary.
Yes.
It's always as a second or third or fourth in the series of events that are happening with
Yes.
him. Or he's never primary.
That's it. Just look at his prayer, the God of my grandpa. There has to be some point where it's my God, right? The God of my parents doesn't do me. I don't have a relationship. It's just some far off God that people before me came to. And that's a real thing as we think about our kids and in where we were in having to make those decisions for ourselves. It's so far in the story, it's never this personal relationship. There's always this twist until we get to the wrestling. And all this is wrestling. We just see that wrestling manifested in very physical ways of all the wrestling that's been going on up to that point. But these lines seem to get very blurred in his mind. Sometimes the blurring can actually be a good thing, right? I love when I was looking through Ezekiel, he prays for God to put his spirit in the people so deeply that their wills are merged with God's will in the best ways, right? That their will is God's will, but it's their will conforming to God's will, not trying to make God's will conform to my will. And that's such a key theme for Ezekiel and what he was trying to do. Is that what's happening here? Is he trying to align his will with God's will? No, right? God, come vindicate me. This is some mind-blowing stuff as we think about this. I think about the tradition that I grew up with. Almost felt like some of these passages get whitewashed because this is God's chosen one. He must be a good dude, right? And so we kind of downplay the kind of some of the nastiness. If this is God's chosen, it must be true. It must be God's will. Jacob is the patriarch of the 12 tribes, right? Everything he does must be good. That's kind of the flavor as the church that we kind of spin this stuff on. And then we start reading this stuff.
to help us appreciate the story of
Yes. Yes.
and how God's impact
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
and will be.
I just think about how my own journey, and I felt like I was propped up to believe all this was God's will. Not maliciously so. I think with really good intentions, and yet I read this stuff. Just think about children's church. You reading about any of this in children's church? When you read through Genesis, what are you going to get in children's church? You're going to get Noah. Are you going to get what caused all this for Noah? No, you're not going to get any of that. And not that I think we should be inappropriate with our kids. Like there's ways, but you're going to get Noah. You're going to get Abraham up on the mountain with Isaac. We're going to get any of that led to that, right? We get the highlights, the hero highlight reel. If you study David, are you going to get David and Goliath or David and Bathsheba? Okay. All right. We see how this stuff happens, and it's not. When all we hear about is the hero, we never read about any of this kind of stuff, and then we're left. I can remember just on my journey, like, how is this God's will? It just feels icky, right?
Let's remind you that he can use everybody.
That's right. That's right. And he doesn't have to whitewash anything. We're told exactly how it is. And we can say, you know what? Let's don't do that. These are cautionary tales. Let's don't try to do this on our own. Because I think I came to a place in my own journey where I was like, I don't really even know. Like starting off, like, I don't know what this book means. Because I had just like it didn't line up. And as a kid coming through church and then trying to figure this relationship out, I didn't know what I believed. I didn't know what I was grounded in. Is it any wonder our kids going to college struggle so much? Even kids raised in church? Because we kind of just talk about the easy stuff and all right, let's keep.
It's just like when you're in school all the way, high school, and then you go away. School and that ninth and that. In high school, I didn't like going. I like going to high school.
Yeah.
They like to go to class.
Yeah.
And when I went to way school, stuff and I started flying and actually listened to them and stuff. Why would do that? Why like I said, high school, and now you think about it. And so as you go through life, your mind develops to where you can soak in more
Correct.
and more, just like kids in school.
Yeah.
They get the highlights, yes, but as they get older, they get to hear the other stuff, and as they start learning to read the Bible themselves during the day and stuff, then they start grasping the other stuff.
We should start
And
grasping,
just
right?
like me, I'm still grasping. I've read the Bible for years, for years, and I still don't understand a lot of it.
Right.
And then I'll read it over again, and then I get a little piece of
That's
here
it.
and there, and
That's
you
it.
start making
That's it.
light of the.
Mhm.
It takes a lifetime.
As more mature believers, we have the responsibility to meet those kids in their struggles.
Yes.
Because I remember going away to college and coming back with questions and sitting in Bible study classes with the pastor and asking those questions and being blown off. And
Yes.
you just have to take it on faith.
That's it.
College.
That is not helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because that's exactly what I'm talking. Just you gotta believe. Don't question anything. Have faith. No question. All the answers are here. It's okay to question. It's okay to struggle and wrestle. But yeah, Let's disciple through that, and don't say good luck. I hope you find answers. And where are they going to go find answers?
Everywhere.
On the internet.
On the internet, on their favorite podcast, from whatever professor they have at college. That's it. That's it. You know what? It's a lot easier to say, you know what? Just go have faith.
So the challenge can also, I mean, yeah, yes, you'll find the answer, but do you read the passages before the answer and do you read the passages after the answer?
That's it. That's
You're
it.
right. You wanna get, for me, I would wanna get the full story.
That's it. When people started showing me how to interpret the Bible and read the Bible, it changed my life. Because those things that I'm like, that just doesn't make sense. And then we start seeing it from a new angle. That this isn't God's will, that this is a cautionary tale. I'm like, oh, that makes so much more sense. Oh,
Understood that what Jesus.
yes. Yeah. He never taught start with, like, he had levels. And then the more you dig into Jesus's words, like, he's getting at the heart of things. Go ahead.
Obsession. Say it again.
I do that a lot. Read through my reading and I'm like, oh, that's what that means. That's what that, like, just these light bulbs. The Bible's fun. The Bible is fun. It takes some work. If you haven't figured that out by now, right? And if all we walk away, and you know what, the Easter story, the Christmas story, it's good. It's all there. It's our salvation. It's our hope. There's more than 2 chapters in the Bible. There's more than Luke 2 and Matthew 28.
So many, don't do this, it didn't work.
Yes.
We see the stories of don't see how
Correct.
this turned out.
Correct.
Don't do this, they already tried it and it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to do,
Yeah.
earn salvation with goodness, it didn't work. They, lots of those in there.
Yeah. And the more we dig in, it's just my experience. The more we dig in, the more I want to dig in. The more I want to share. And like, hey, look at what I've read. Look, this is how God spoke to me. And then it just becomes this word that's dynamic and changing and moving. Like when he says this is a living double-edged sword in Timothy, it is. It is, because it moves and if it's flat and if it's not doing that, we're not doing something else. If we read the Bible, I got to get through my 4 chapters today and hope I don't fall asleep. Maybe we're approaching it in the wrong ways. I'm just saying. All right, back to the story. Get off my soapbox. We start to see Jacob's character being revealed over and over and over. We start to understand these passages in his dream a little different. And what it is I'm going to use God's name to legitimize my scheme. So Laban's using divination to scheme. Is Jacob's approach any better?
Jacob's time has already started.
Yes. You're right.
Yeah, it says that everyone's faces change.
Yes.
Yes, he has received a lot of people, that I'm wondering if it's his perspective. if
Oh, that's good. He's noticing people's faces.
Does everybody's face change, or is it your point of view?
Yeah, okay. No, that's good. That's real good. Right? Start noticing the harm we're doing. Remember our words, Nahash, right? That was to practice divination, and Nahash, the serpent and the snake, right? One way is the snake's craftiness. One way is the divination. Is there any difference? It's all evil. It's all chaos. And so, right? Remember those words are pretty much the exact same word. As we looked at divination and the serpent, they're all rooted in the same place. You know, as we close for today, you know what the scary part about all this is? Because of his self-deception, Jacob may actually believe what he is saying. Go ahead, Luke.
I was looking at verses 11 and 12. The angel of God said to me in the dream, I mean, turn tell, it's real.
Yeah. Does Jacob even know what's real and not real at this point?
And in verse 13, I tell him, go back, go up, leave this land at once, go back to your native land. So, I don't know. I read this stuff for years, but I've never really looked at it like, the more you study it, you don't get a clear picture.
Right. Just by kind of going, breezing through it. So you kind of slow down.
I look at this dream differently now.
You look at what?
Dream differently.
Oh, sure.
Because of the chapter.
Yes. Go ahead. Yes.
Say, God told me to go, that part's true. So he can, take something God actually did say, and it makes you think, okay, well, he must be saying the right thing. That's where the deception really lies. It's the one thing that was actually said by God makes
Who's the king of half truths? That's the garden, right? He's taking these half truths and you just twist it just a little bit. And we can do that without even thinking about it.
And even if God did tell him to leave,
God did tell him to leave.
there's a proper way to do that.
Yes.
Not just, we'll see that later.
Yeah, that's next week, right? Yeah, that's next week.
Well, I think we see this with people all the time, right? We use somebody with higher authority
Yes.
to justify the things we want to do.
Yeah.
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 He's ready to go. He sees people's attitudes changing. So he knows it's fixing to get bad. But he knows that his wives are not going to want to leave their dad and their family and
Yes.
they never know. So he's like, hey, God did this.
That's it. I think you're
And
exactly
they can
right.
argue with that.
Yeah, how do you argue with that? And he shifts their mind. How are they feeling about their dad now? Oh, now he stripped away our inheritance. Oh, he took away our stuff, right? And so their mind shifts towards their family. So just and so now he has to run again. That's the story of this guy's life is just make a mess of things and run away. Think any of this is going to catch up with him? Every single bit of it will catch up with him. Guess who has to bail him out every time? God. Every time.
Kind of a pattern.
It is a pattern. And if we stay in that pattern, it's not good. Let's pray. Lord God, we thank you for this morning. Thank you for these discussions that we've had, Lord, on who you are and what your word says, Lord. And I just, Lord, help us to interpret wisely. Give us wisdom as we walk through these passages to see what's of your will and what's of our will, or what's of a will that is outside of your will. Lord, and I just pray that we would interpret that for our own lives. Lord, how do we walk forth in your presence? How do we walk forth in what you would have us to do, not with what we want you to do? So, Lord, just show us that. Raise us up. Give us discernment. Help us to speak this life into our kids and our grandkids and our nieces and our nephews, and in our schools and in our workplaces, and just to be willing to have these hard conversations and not to tell someone just to have faith. Lord, give us wisdom to share, that we would be ready with an answer for all that would come asking. Lord, we thank you for our time. Bless each and every one of these here today. We love you, Jesus. Amen. All right, so there. Okay.